Hello, everybody, and welcome to Ship or Not to Ship, Fandoms Are Us. I am Stephanie Zucci, aka Galaxian Knight, and this is
Andrea Donica, aka Dole Whip Drea.
And we have a fun episode for you this time. This is episode 3 of Ship or Not to Ship, and we will be doing Lucifer. Like literally doing Lucifer.
Oh, I wish.
I wish. Tom Ellis. Tom Ellis.
Wow. He is a tasty cake. So delicious. So intelligent. An amazing actor. And just an absolute pleasure to watch. In more ways than one. But he's done an amazing job on this show. And the whole cast is fantastic, right? I mean, there's really no one's performance that I've been, I could lose that person. No, they're all pretty fantastic. And really, everybody is pretty hot, if we're being honest.
Yeah, I mean, it's a cast full of hotties. Hands down. Like, oh my god. So, just putting this plug in, if you haven't seen Tom Ellis's thirsty tweets, we feel so bad for him, but it's so good.
It's a thing to watch. I actually felt kind of embarrassed and bad for him. Like, I don't know, if I'd had to read some of that stuff out loud about people saying that about me, I'd just be like, my safety is in jeopardy. These people want to pounce me.
I was just pissed. I was just pissed that they bleeped out the C word, because I wanted to hear it come out of his mouth so bad. I'm just saying, I was like, why'd you bleep that? No! You had him say every other word. That was absolutely horrific, but you had to bleep that word. Obviously, we're not, we have such a social morale surrounding that word. Anyways.
Yeah.
So let's get down to business. So, if any of you have not watched Lucifer, I introduced my girl here. I introduced Dole Whip to Lucifer. I had just gotten to the second episode, and I literally, she came over one night, and I'm like, you have to watch this. This just has to be done.
She was talking about it up and down, all day, and she's like, you have to watch this. There was another show, a comedy that I'd wrapped up, and I was just like, man, I need to find a new comedy to watch, because everything else I have is a drama. I need some lighthearted fun. And I immediately got sucked into Lucifer. Pretty much within the first couple of minutes, I was hooked. Really strong pilot, I would say, too. And that's kind of hard to find in television series, but Lucifer's pilot is pretty solid and brings you into the world right away.
Oh, yeah. So here's a little bit of a lowdown. Lucifer is obviously Lucifer the Fallen Angel, and he decides to take a vacation in LA. And the cool thing about this show is it's shot in LA, so you get some nostalgic stuff. If you're from LA, like the Valley, like I am, like we are, you get the nostalgic of little spots that pop up that are like, I have been there. When are they recording?
Yeah, legit. 100%. It's just it's a lot of Southern California, Los Angeles jokes, actually. And that's always tickled my funny bone, because I feel like there's never enough of it. So many shows are set in, New York, for example, and it's that's great. LA has a little more wiggle room to work with, and they do it. They do it. Lucifer actually opens up a nightclub, of all things, and he's there for 5 years, kind of just chilling out, and all of a sudden, a frickin' murder happens to someone that he actually knows, that he personally helps, right in front of his nightclub. And while Lucifer is kind of looked at as, the devil, this evil being that is the reason why sin was created, why people do bad things, Lucifer is focused on doling out justice.
Yeah, and that's the one thing. It's he's all about the hardcore justice thing, so he's all about punishment. and I want to be punished by him so bad. So I'm like, every time I look at him, like going, yes, anytime he says, you must be punished, and I'm just like, oh, dirty thoughts, Stephanie, stop. Tom Ellis, stop saying that. Stop saying that.
Still, he looks real intimidating when he says that, too.
but hot intimidating.
Yeah.
So we get introduced to Chloe Decker, Detective Chloe Decker, who is on the case. She has been pretty much ostracized by the rest of her police department because of something she witnessed, and is trying to prove fault against a fellow police officer who's in a coma. So
which is why everyone is kind of holding it against her, like, this guy is in a coma, how can you be alleging these things about him? But she's like, I know what I saw, but no one will talk to her. At first, she and Lucifer butt heads, and it throws Lucifer off because he can always essentially make a woman stop in her tracks. Even men, too, of course.
Yeah.
And just be head over heels and just not paying attention to anything, being in total lust. But it doesn't affect Chloe. And Lucifer is automatically like, why doesn't this affect her? Why am I not affecting her? And he really enjoys bantering with her. And they eventually team up to solve this murder. And they become partners.
Yeah, and on the side note, there is her ex-husband who used to be a partner with her as another detective who is in on this con that was with the other police officer that was in coma. So there's a lot going on. Now, the cool thing about Lucifer is it's never boring watching these two banter. It is they have such great chemistry, and Lucifer actually has great chemistry with everyone in the show.
He really does.
That is key in this show, and that's what keeps it going. All his interactions with everyone, whether it's Dan, the ex-husband, whether it's Linda Martin, who's my favorite psychiatrist.
So this is another fun thing in the pilot. Lucifer, because I think it's Chloe that says something to him. She's like, you need to, like, go see a therapist or something, right? Oh, and by the way, Lucifer tells everyone to their faces that he's the devil. He never lies. This is a very important thing about him, but of course no one believes him. So he actually goes, maybe I should go see a therapist. So guess what? He ends up in a therapist's office, and she becomes a regular on the show. And Dr. Linda is amazing and is always giving Lucifer really good advice. Of course, he takes it in the completely wrong opposite direction, and hijinks ensue.
All the time. And so, bringing some of the females on, and Lucifer is always a contention with the women. Like, hardcore contention. Now, Dr. Linda is very straightforward with him. Yes, they have sex. That they bone. It's great. She's getting laid. She cares for him as a friend eventually. So that's what makes her more of the 3-4 dimensional character. My favorite, though, is the most multi-dimensional character is Mazikeen. And the reason why behind that, and this is, you can all fight me on this, but she starts off with just being a demon that accompanies Lucifer to L.A. to make sure he's not getting into too much craziness trouble, but she gets into her own trouble as well. She's all about
she can fend for herself.
Yeah, she's all about torturing people, so sexually or non-sexually, whatever you want to take it. She loves torture. She loves the S&M. So, we just see her as this demon at the beginning, and she's very aggressive in how she talks and how she interacts with people. So Chloe is obviously a contention for her master's feelings and affections, whether Lucifer is aware of it or not. So at the beginning, she's already feeling the jealousy. But she, of course, has her own dilemma. So Amenadiel is Lucifer's brother from heaven. He is the first angel, basically the first angel to God, and supposedly does God's bidding a lot. Kind of like the Gabriel character we see, but a little more aggressive in his approach, not necessarily the messenger, but more of, if you're going into the dogma behind it, he is more of the aggressor, kind of like what Michael the Archangel was.
Like,
but
if I were to give him a nickname, it would be the Enforcer.
Yeah, he's the enforcer. He's basically making sure his siblings, all around, whether evil or good, or bad, or, whatever, are doing their thing, that are supposed to be in their place. Well, he's trying to get Lucifer back to hell, because he says, you don't belong here. Your vacation's over. You need to go back to hell.
5 years is long enough, buddy. It's time to go back. And Lucifer says, up yours. I'm not going. I like it here. And I never wanted to run hell. It was something that Dad forced me to do. That's the fun thing, too, because they're constantly talking about Dad, who's God, who we never see or get really any sort of an explanation. And the other interesting thing, too, is when they do talk about God, they're like, well, he won't even talk to me. It's almost like they haven't seen him either, which is just wild. I love it.
And this is going into my actually number one ship, which didn't come to fruition. It was teased a lot. They had the sexual encounter, but it never came to fruition. It was actually Mazikeen and Amenadiel. I felt like they were, at odds, but working towards the same goal, because Mazikeen wanted to go back to hell. And that's the very important thing. She wanted to go home. But later on, Lucifer, she feels, betrays her in many ways. So now she has to find herself, realizing she is stuck on Earth. So she eventually begrudgingly befriends Chloe by becoming her roommate. And those were the best episodes ever. Anytime it was Chloe and Mazikeen,
or
was
with
the
all
best.
of remember the girls' night episode where the girls go to the bar? So literally, it's Linda, it's Chloe, it's Mazikeen, and Ella, who is a forensic scientist who we get introduced to in season 2, and she is she's a box of rainbows and sparkles and so happy. And she's actually very deep in her faith as well. But she's such a positive opposite to so many of the other characters that she's actually a fantastic foil. And then you combine these 4 women together who really, they weren't necessarily friends, and then they became best friends randomly at the bar.
But here's the funny thing with Ella Lopez. She's actually She was originally a con artist. Her family's from con artists. Mm-hmm. So her becoming into the
force,
the force, the legal departments. It was pretty funny. But getting back, so Lucifer has all these layers of women, but Endgame is Chloe and Lucifer. That's how the show's established, and they are never boring. Even in this last season that came up. And we're not going to talk about Eve. I don't want to get into Eve. Eve can go suck a dick. Sorry, I put that out there.
We're going to have to talk about Eve. And
I really
that's
don't.
Actually, well, no. See, okay, we'll get to that.
We'll get to that. But
we'll get
getting into that, we know that Chloe and Lucifer Endgame. It's just been such torture, and they tease all the time. So you have to keep watching, because if these two don't bone, you're gonna shoot your lid. Like, it's so bad.
It's the heart of the show. And the wonderful thing is, so Chloe is a mother. So she is essentially a single mother. Obviously, Dan, her ex, is around and also takes care of their daughter. But it becomes a community of raising their child. And Chloe is just a very patient person. And really because Lucifer isn't human, because all of these celestial beings aren't human, they don't understand necessarily like human, like normal emotional processes and like love or sadness or different things. Like, those are emotions that they haven't experienced.
Yeah.
So Lucifer doesn't know how to process it. But Chloe is so patient. And I think it's partially because she is a mother that she's just able to, just take a deep breath and rationalize with him. Even though Lucifer is just being ridiculous and very much a child. She's teaching him, like, to be human and to care about other people's feelings and the world, or that everything doesn't revolve around him, which is directly the opposite of how he has thought for his entire existence. Well, and that is really fascinating to me.
It's so funny because season 1, it was almost like he was her second child. If you think about that, she mothered him. But not in the way, there was still like that sexual tension, which is weird. But, and we're going to get to mother tension in a bit. Charlotte Richards.
One more very important thing. Chloe makes Lucifer vulnerable, which was another additional thing in there. So Lucifer is immortal, but if he is too close to Chloe, and if he gets injured in any way, he can die. And that becomes like a secret for a long time, and something that Chloe doesn't learn for a long time until the past season. But yes, let's get into Mother Dearest. Charlotte Richards.
So Charlotte Richards dies. That is the Charlotte Richard dies, originally. Now, there are two gods that this series decided to split God in half. God has a man entity, which is the father, and a female entity, which is the mother. Well, the mother has been cast down by the father to hell, such like a man to do, but has been cast to hell and sealed in hell for God knows what reason, actually. No pun intended. But we'll find that out later. They said in this season they didn't kind of curve why he did it originally. That she had disagreed with him about the treatment of her children. That was mentioned in the season. And that shows something such a mother would say, and yet she was damned to hell for it. Okay, cool. So she escapes hell, and the beings have to take over a form, especially not like Lucifer, not like a Metadiel. That is their celestial form / non-celestial form. Their human form is not them taking over someone's body. That would be, I guess, God. The female god can only do that. So her celestial being, so powerful, went into Charlotte Richards, who came back to life, knowing she is the female entity of God. Okay? So now Lucifer has his mother running around, and Metadiel is torn between, and Lucifer are torn between sending her back to hell, as God would want it, or basically letting her be, or having her find a way to heaven. But she's torn between her revenge on her husband and finding a connection with her sons again. Because right now her sons pretty much have pushed her out of their lives, and they're trying to consistently push them out. And there are great times she has a weird relationship with Linda, which is great, which bleeds over, and this is explaining, at the end of her story arc, the goddess, we're going to call her the goddess so we don't confuse her with God, gets her own universe. They break the seal of a universe, and she gets pushed into her own universe. Her own reality. And that is such an awesome way for her to go. But now, Charlotte Richards has been revived.
And
she is alive.
Remember any of this stuff.
She is so confused. And she feels like she has memories and with these people, and doesn't understand why she's separated from her husband, why her children are, she's not having that much of a relationship with her children. It is a multiple layer problem with her. And that's another one, like Mazikeen, who has the multidimensional to become human from her demon. Charlotte Richards is trying to not return to hell because that's where she went to when the goddess took over her body.
And she is terrified to go back because she remembers it very vividly, and she's scared. So finally, I think it's a Menadiel. First Lucifer reveals it, and then kind of walks away because he's kind of whatever about things without...
No. A Menadiel reveals it to her. Lucifer wasn't planning to, and then she gets the full story from Lucifer. I remember that episode specifically because I remember Menadiel lets it out of the bag because he's so moved by her image, because for a while there he was calling her mom. If I remember correctly.
That's true. Yeah, and that was the other complex thing. But Charlotte goes to Menadiel basically like, how do I make sure I don't go back? How can I redeem myself? How can I clean up my act? Which is really interesting. And while the goddess was inhabiting her body, she manipulated Dan. So Dan is going through all of these weird emotions because Charlotte doesn't remember that. Charlotte has no memories of that. So Dan is like, why are you acting like nothing's happened between us? So then she feels bad. And then eventually they do hook up. And it's actually kind of nice. It's kind of nice. And then in the middle of all of this, another character comes in who acts like he is just a perfectly handsome Tom Welling guy who is actually Cain, the first murderer.
This is Detective Marcus Pierce, and in disguise as Marcus Pierce, because obviously, like she said, he's Cain, and he's trying to get himself killed. He wants to die. That's that season. He's trying to find ways to kill himself, and he can't die because, obviously, he was the first sin. He wasn't the first sin, but he was the first murderer. Thank you. So there's that whole backstory behind that, and it's really funny to circle around back to Charlotte Richards. She does get killed, and she dies, and a Menadiel brings her to heaven because she was trying to do the good things. Some of them were back and forth, not so good, but good at the same time. She's trying to be friends, but everyone's like going, like, especially Ella's like, and you're a horrible person, I don't like you, but I gotta be nice to you.
Legitimately creeped out, and when Ella doesn't want to be your friend, that's because legit you were an awful person.
But she atones for her sins, and we had to. I literally was applauding when she pretty much ascended into heaven. It was like, an ascension to heaven.
It was really beautiful. It was very sweet. So, jumping in, now that you have kind of heard all of these different characters' names,
we need to talk about the ships!
Now we get to talk about the ships. So, obviously, Chloe and Lucifer, their endgame, they are the heart and soul of the show. So it's one step forward, 2 steps back, constantly.
I love you, Tom Ellis.
What?
I love you, Tom Ellis.
Everyone loves Tom Ellis.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure everyone, it would have to be either dead or, in a coma to not love Tom Ellis. Just saying.
Sometimes I wonder if British women don't find British men as attractive as maybe American women find British men attractive.
Maybe it's because...
thought about that.
Maybe it's because it's like listening to a Valley Boy talk like a Valley Boy or in slang. So they're so used to the way they talk. Or like a New Yorker listening to a New Yorker talk. Or, or a cowboy listening to a cowgirl talk. We think it's charming. Us on the LA coast can hear a cowboy, say some sweet things, but, their mom will sit there like, oh, they're talking out of their ass. I don't know what's going on.
But literally, you just said 10 words and none of it meant anything. That's just great.
Yes. It's like, talk.
Mazikeen and Amenadiel hook up in season 1, and they looked really promising, but they had a really messy breakup.
Oh, yeah.
Because one was about to kill the other. That kind of ended things real fast. Very painful. Eventually, Amenadiel and Linda kind of end up hooking up after a series of kind of just being friends, and then, Linda also finds out before anybody else that Lucifer is the devil, so she's brought into the world a lot faster. So she's able to know that Amenadiel is an angel. And they hook up, but then things get messy because Mazikeen is not only hurting from her past relationship with Amenadiel, but she is also
that relationship.
very, very intensely attached and some would say clingy to Linda, but it's hard because she is also learning things like human regular things like friendship. These are relationships that she's not used to having. So it kind of sends her spiraling. And when Mazikeen gets mad, she really does a lot of collateral damage. And it becomes messy. And so Linda and Amenadiel are like, okay, like, we really like each other, but maybe this isn't a good idea. And then, guess what? Linda's preggers.
Oh, that baby is too cute. That's the only thing of the last season that I see. Watching the last season for me was kind of like, it was cringeworthy most of the time. But that's just because I'm so Chloe Lucifer Endgame that watching him, even when he had his one night hookups, I'm just like, seriously, another hookup, Lucifer? Just fuck Chloe. I said it again.
Now I'm remembering. We do need to talk about Eve now.
I don't want to talk about Eve.
I know. No one wants to, but unfortunately, especially because you love Mazikeen, and I love Mazikeen, we gotta talk about Eve.
Yeah, Eve's the...
So, what the heck? And they still don't thoroughly explain how she makes it down to Earth. Because she's in heaven. And all she says to Amenadiel is, I was always a bit of a rule breaker. Like, yeah,
but what does that mean?
What does that even mean? It's like, alright, that's definitely a non-explanation. But alright, fine. Like, this is already a sci-fi fantasy genre show. I'll just go with it.
But they've been good about explaining.
Yeah, that's the thing. Most of the time they are pretty good about explaining things. This one they weren't.
No.
Eve is gratingly... She's like one of those fangirls, like one of those groupies, that's just like, and blinks and smiles, and there's literally nothing going on upstairs. Except maybe to manipulate here or there, which is really upsetting. I love the actress. I think that she was really good, very consistent. It was a little caricatured. At the same time, it's Eve. It is, even it's still, and they mentioned this in the show, not the first woman, but Eve is kind of that typical, one of those early relationships that you have where it's like you haven't done enough soul searching for yourself, looking inward to see what do you want. Are you going to stop playing to be what you think the other person wants you to be? Just be natural, just be yourself. She's very clingy to Lucifer, and she goes to Los Angeles specifically with the aim to hook up with him again. And literally, she will not listen to anything that he says when he's just like, I don't want this. And even though he is not with Chloe, and even though he's trying to clear some space, he does not want to have that relationship, but she essentially forces it on him.
Yeah, that's what makes her, like, the big C word. Sorry.
Childish and naive. She's childish and naive throughout the entire thing. And then, as the season wears on, she starts talking more with Mazikeen. Now, I loved the friendship between them because, one, they automatically kind of understood each other, which I thought was nice. But soon, she starts to manipulate Mazikeen too. And poor Maze, she falls hard, all out of the blue, completely out of the blue. And seeing Maze go through her character arc and her journeys, you really want her to finally have a win and be happy. You really want that for her. It's already complicated enough with, like, Linda and Amenadiel having their baby, and she's kind of like the surrogate third parent or whatever, but she's not quite in it, and she knows that, and they're establishing that, and she's, like, trying to have boundaries and find her own person. But, of course, Eve is only manipulating Mazikeen to try to get back with Lucifer when he finally does push her out. And it just keeps going. And finally, at the end, Eve is like, I need to do some soul searching. I need to reevaluate who I am. I can't be in a relationship right now. Maze, you weren't imagining things. I am interested in you. Kisses her and she walks away.
Yeah.
And it's just like, Maze deserves so much better than that girl.
Oh yeah, and that's what pissed me off. Like, I'm like, sitting like, you stupid little brat.
I have no problem with Maze being open to all sexualities. I think
she is. Great. That's established at the beginning.
Yeah, no, and I think that that's fantastic, and I'm glad that they actually didn't just have it as, because you know how things are often written. It's like, oh, women are only hooking up with other women for men's pleasure, because that's how men fantasize about these sort of things. They were actually trying to make it be more legitimate. The thing is, Eve is not a good person. Eve is a manipulative brat. And Mazikeen knows that, but she's still heartbroken, and it's just sad.
If they were going to pick someone to be his old flame, so to speak, and I'm jeering at you, writers, because you had an opportunity, and that's why I felt Eve fell short. You had an opportunity to bring on the original wife of Adam, Lilith. You had that woman that gets damned to hell for having an opinion that could be considered equal in intelligence, probably, to Lucifer, as well as wit. She is, I thought that would have been interesting. When they had the actress who played Charlotte Richards come on, before the season started, they showed, like, little clips here and there. I thought that's where they were going with that. I thought she was going to be Lilith, and I'm like, oh my god, they're bringing that. And then when we found out that, you know, she was the goddess, I was kind of like, oh, okay, cool. I can dig this. Yeah. But when Eve came on, I felt like a missed opportunity was there. I felt like if they're going to do something... Now, we don't know what's going to happen in this next season, because it's still on for another season. And Lucifer's in hell. Now, there's a couple theories going out that the demons, even though he's returned to hell, are escaping from hell. So he's got to bridge back and forth. So we're going to see him trying to do the controlling in hell, while the immortals and people in the earth realm are trying to fight, become kind of like these, not demon hunters, but are trying to figure out what's going on while these demons are being released on the world. Showing the apocalypse coming. Because they haven't talked about that. They mentioned it, especially with Azrael, who, she's awesome. She's the most awesome angel of death ever. I thought that casting was so spot on, because I don't know why. Everyone's like, you expect Azrael to be this morbid being, but I love the actress. I felt like that was a great storyline with Ella being her imaginary friend.
Yeah.
Or thinking of her as a ghost at one point, that she sees ghosts, but it's actually the angel of death kind of being her guardian angel. I just love that. So
it's beautiful. And you know what? I have a feeling, too, that they'll probably bring her back at least for an episode or two for the final season.
Well, they have to, because it is apparent with the theories that are coming around that there is the apocalypse coming. Or hinting that there could be apocalypse coming.
And we can't forget about the the prophecy from this past season, when the devil walks the earth and finds his first love, evil shall walk the earth. And we see that in the final episode with an insurgence of demons trying to take over. And Lucifer ultimately says, I'm sorry, I have to protect you and now my nephew and the rest of humanity, because the demons are just going to keep coming back if there's nobody back in hell to rule them. It took them over 5 years, which is really entertaining to me. But hey, they figured it out. And the interesting thing, too, is Lucifer has changed. So while he is still the king, while he'll still be on his throne in the dominion and he's up high and the other demons can't get up there, they have found a way to get back. And if they're restless enough and they're still annoyed enough and not going to respect him, he's going to have certain people slipping through the cracks, and that's going to get messy.
No, he's changed so much. His whole character, his whole story arc has changed so much that it will become apparent that they will believe he's not fit to rule hell and will reign terror. That's why the theory for the apocalypse makes sense. And I hate to say this, but a sacrifice is going to be happening. And there have been so many actual debates about whether that's going to be Chloe. And we don't want it to be. We don't want it to be. Now, that being said, is it time to bring on the first woman? They're probably not. It would be interesting if they added that story arc that she is just as disgruntled as the demons, since we know she is lurking in hell, that she was forced down to hell, as according to the scriptures. So, would it be great that she is the revolt and the start of the apocalypse?
That would be interesting.
And I wish I was a writer on the show, because I'm like, oh my god, we could take this further, and then you can extend it an extra season, not making this the final season, because I have so many more ideas going into that. But I feel like the ultimate sacrifice, sadly, is our wish for the end game to be Chloe and Lucifer, and it's not. I feel like what's going to happen is she's going to sacrifice, because Chloe has been put in so much peril and so much near-death experiences that she's just, it's almost like she's fighting fate. And I feel like, she's the full circle. She's everything comes down to her. And the baby. That's another thing. We have to talk about that baby, because that baby, something's going to happen. Is it...
little Charlie has a giant target on his head.
Yeah.
I mean, he'd barely been born and he was kidnapped by a bunch of demons, so consider how messy that's going to be. Linda and Amenadiel have a huge job to do with that. And the question is also going to become, what... Is he going to have wings? He doesn't right now, as far as we know, but maybe they'll pop out one day as he's growing.
Yes.
Like, you have no idea. We have no idea what to expect. And Amenadiel says himself, this has literally never happened before, so your guess is as good as mine. And but angels just automatically are, as we see them now.
He didn't have his... Originally, when he hooked up with Linda, he didn't have his celestial power. Does that influence that or not? That's another thing. He had mortality. So we need to decide if that influences the baby as being human or if his celestial being was dormant. And so...
Well, then you're kind of arguing then that the baby would not be half immortal then.
That's what I'm saying.
But I don't think that the demons would have been lured to him and would have actually thought that the baby would be able to rule hell if he wasn't enough angel.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, if it's this idea of corrupting a celestial, just like Lucifer was corrupted. Now, that being said, Lucifer was never corrupted. That's a turn of phrase of the idea of demons were other angels that followed Lucifer and became fallen as well. Like, you have the Stolz, and they never brought up Beelzebub. There's a lot of celestial beings that they could tap into. Like, Beelzebub's supposed to be his second in command to Satan, to Lucifer. So, that is... But this show has geared so far away from a lot of actual true text, which, you know, whether you take the dogma true or not, that's up to you. That's all. I'm not going to get religious on you. But it's based on the text of the source. They've kind of geared away from it a lot. Hence, the female goddess and the male goddess. Okay? They've pushed away from that. And that's okay.
I think something that the show has illustrated quite well, which is something that I love, is, the Bible says one thing that's not necessarily as accurate as some might hold that dogma to. It's kind of like history. When things are written down, it's written from one perspective, one agenda, not necessarily looking at it from a neutral standpoint. So, of course, this person bad, that person bad, actually, this other person threw the first stone, and this happened as well. Yeah.
But based on characters, they pretty much have, like, Uriel, who's such a douche, Azrael, and Amenadiel. They are actually legit angels. So I want to see a lot more of the demonology that they're trying to tap into, especially if we're coming up on this next season and it is going to truly be the apocalypse. I think now that we've seen a lot of the celestiology, I guess you could call it, the angels, I think we need to now tap into the other realm. Because we have a lot of people that come from there. So we have, Mazikeen. What is Mazikeen actually? We know she was a torturer. We know she was a demon of torture. She was one of his top torturers and trusted servants. But Mazikeen has a very specific name, and there are mentions of certain demons in the Bible, but not enough in lore. Because remember, there's different sections in the Bible and unpublished written sections that we know about. Books that were never brought to life. Mary Magdalene wrote a book. A lot of versions. So, which version are they bringing? Because if they bring someone like Mazikeen, that's bringing a little bit extra demonology. So that's why I want to know if they're going to go, if she was just a made-up character, or if she's actually based off of someone. Not someone, but a demon. Yeah, that's the thing. And so they could really have a lot more to work with if they actually start bridging out with some of the text. And that's what I feel like that they might do, especially if they're heading on the end of existence in the final season. But I've been proven wrong many times. Obviously, I thought, Charlotte Richards was going to be Lilith, but, I could dream.
Folks, she's been talking about Lilith since season 1, and I'd be like, all right, Steph, all right.
You don't understand. That is a fabulous story arc.
No,
Writers do.
Sure, but we also have to remember, at least while this was on Fox, this was a serial detective show that was kind of like, okay, there's a certain repetitive process.
Yeah.
So what you're suggesting right now for this next season is that it would completely deviate from that cycle. And I'm not 100% sure that they would actually do that. I think that they'll... something that I did find refreshing for this past season was that they did actually spend a little more time dealing with the characters' interpersonal relationships on the side, as opposed to just being like, here's the case, this is the dead person, who are we looking for? We still saw that. Yeah. But it didn't feel as as overbearing on the plot as it is sometimes.
But the cases always seem to link with whatever is going on in the corporeal world. I mean, especially when the season with Cain. Any of the cases had to deal with the, oh god, what was his, bad guy name? Not Cain, but they had, like...
it was a special, serial killer name that he had.
Yeah. But he was always like, you know, all the crime scenes, oh, this is him. This is him. This is him. But it wasn't sometimes, so it's pretty interesting to see, like, that transition. Yeah, so that was, that made sense. But, like, even in the first season, a lot of the cases were part of the storyline to get where these characters need to be. I think season 1 was more establishing the Chloe and Lucifer partnership, and how the partnership had its ups and downs, that they've stopped it, then they started again. You know, it was trying to establish themselves. And even season 2 had a lot of that too. Because even though they were established partners, there was a trust issue at one point between them. Because remember, Chloe doesn't actually believe Lucifer that he's the devil. And so he keeps harping on this. And she's like, you know, you could tell me the truth. She knows he has daddy issues. and so when he talks about daddy being God, she's like, maybe this is how he deals. And originally, that's how Linda thought, until Linda found out he was the devil. So, saw his actual face. And that was a sad arc where she almost was scared to go near him until she finally realized he's still the same person. He's just the devil. Okay, I just got to get over my preconceived notions of what Lucifer is, what Satan is in the Bible, and kind of come to terms with who's Lucifer at Morningstar as the person. And that was the biggest thing. And that's the same thing with Chloe. If you think about it, when Chloe saw his face, she had to come to terms with who is Lucifer to her, and had to put distance between them. Because finding out that he's actually Lucifer, she questions everything about their relationship.
Well,
I would.
Another interesting thing, too, is Chloe isn't necessarily like a super religious person.
No, she don't.
One can also argue, you know, because she lost her father at such a young age, you know, maybe it just... She's tried to take on things she's always approached things from a very matter-of-fact way. So it's just not kind of the way that her mind thinks. But because she suddenly sees his face, you know, she grabs Trixie, her daughter, and they go to Italy. Yeah. And she starts researching, and she's opening up this can of worms of, you know, centuries of biblical text, trying to make sense of things, trying to look things up, and she's having this amazing inner conflict because she's like, all of these things that I'm reading, like, it just, this is not the Lucifer that I know, but oh my god, why am I reading all of this stuff? And then she gets manipulated by the priest.
Yes.
And things just get even worse. But that's something that I find really interesting, too. Not just straight from that sense, but, you know, people might say things, they might have their own interpretations of another person, or maybe something as simple as, like, a restaurant, like, oh, this is just bad, you don't want to go there, you don't want to experience that, oh, they're terrible, they're really annoying. And yeah. It's just like, but this is not my experience. This is not my perception of things, and what you're saying doesn't mesh up with what I know to be true. And having to come to terms with that, and having to also focus on her reality and what she knows to be true, I think is a really empowering thing, and a very important message to just focus on what you know to be true. Focus on what you see. Don't just let everyone else's diatribe fill your head and tell you what to think and believe. Like, use your own common sense. Like, oh, did you eat children? God, no. Those children wouldn't taste good in the first place.
Yes.
Nasty buggers.
No, it's very interesting, and I think that's what makes it tragic, when she comes to the realization that she doesn't care who he is. She loves him. And so their final combine, the kiss that we've been waiting for, which was an amazing kiss.
That entire scene is just so heartbreaking.
Died.
And of course, they tell each other that they love each other, but he has to go. To protect her, he has to leave. He has to go back to hell. And, I was having major Beauty and the Beast feels right there.
Yes.
Like when Belle is, sobbing over Beast's body, and she's like, please don't leave me, I love you. Ugh.
Or even when, if you want to reverse it, when he lets her go.
Yeah.
Oh,
and the song that they play.
Oh, yes.
My love, my fearless love. They play that in
yes.
a lot of the key scenes that are related to Chloe and Lucifer. And depending on from whose perspective it is, whether it's Chloe's or Lucifer's, if it's Lucifer's, you hear a male singer singing that song, and when it's from Chloe's perspective, you hear a female singing it.
Yeah.
And it's just
I noticed that too.
Amazing thing. Shout out to the editors and the writers and the songwriters that do that. I might have
some gripes, but they are... With this show was never a boring moment. Yes, I hated Eve. I hated her. Okay? I can hate a character.
Yeah.
And still enjoy the show. The show was always moving. Each episode was never boring. I think we giggled fest after we watched every episode. We're like...
Screaming, too. Anytime that it's been, sexy for a moment, or if something goes in a
you'd hear squeals!
180-degree turn... we would literally be gripping each other and screaming at the TV. And then, your brother would be like, are you guys okay?
Yeah, no, we're just being murdered by, the sexiness that is this show, the amazingness that is this show.
Oh,
but
God.
I say, if they don't bone in the next season, we revolt.
I think it is safe to say that the writers understand how important a Decker Star sex scene is to the fandom, and that it would be inherently cruel and just wrong if we didn't get one.
But here's the thing.
One.
There is last season syndrome, hence Game of Thrones. Last season syndrome where things were building up and were amazing, and everyone was enjoying the show, and then the shit hits the fan, and what happened the final season? It's like final season blow up.
No. That's Game of Thrones blow up. I'm not even... That's going to have to be another episode.
Yeah, we don't need to talk about that.
But no. That was... I'm going to blame that on those showrunners who were trying to... what is the word? Upset expectations, or...
They were trying to get people off the set. That's the thing, is there were so many false or true endings. They had multiple endings, and that were being leaked. And probably some of the endings that were being leaked were a lot better than the endings that we got. The problem I have...
A fulfilling ending that might be more predictable is a much better way to end your show, as opposed to just doing the complete opposite and pissing off the fandom. If you're going to end something, you end on good terms. You don't just say F you to your entire audience, which is what they did. But the good thing about the Lucifer writers is that they do not work that way. The way they have written this show, that's never been their aim with anything. I think that they're going to give us a very satisfying ending. They're going to end it the way that they want to, and they're going to end it in a way that us fans are going to be very happy. And I think it's going to be big, it's going to be rough, but I think it's also going to be very satisfying at the end.
No, my fear is that they get into that point where, you know, I mean, like I said, I believe in last season blow up where a lot of shows go through it. Once upon a time, the one thing it should have been was the last season, and it wasn't. An example would be how even great movies or great books, if you think about it, like how they establish the ending, and you're like, this is over, this is it, this is how it ends, and so they really have to take care of all the story arcs they do, and they've been really good about this. Save for Eve, she can go suck a dick. I'm gonna keep saying that. They've been really good about this. With each season was a build to the next season. And then introducing a new story arc. They didn't do it like randomly. It was an arc from the next season on, and they were able to merge it all together beautifully. I'm just scared that they're gonna get gun shy and say, we can't do this because of this. I know, I just don't want my expectations up, too high, because I've been upset before.
It's been a rough year.
Yes.
What I see happening for the series finale is because this entire show has been working for Lucifer to become more human and to be redeemed.
Yeah.
And I think that because he has had this huge change in the way that he behaves, because he is less selfish, because he cares for humanity, because he doesn't want to be the Lord of Hell, and as we have established here, he's really not right for the job anymore either. I've always firmly believed that the end game for the show, besides him and Chloe finally being able to be together, is that Lucifer is able to become mortal and live out the rest of his life as a human and lose his immortality as an angel.
I mean, that's kind of, to me, feel very typical. I want to say, I hate using the F word, fairy tale ending. As much as we would love it.
But he's happy being on Earth as a human. You know what I mean? It'd be one thing if he actually aspired to go back to the Silver City. He has no interest in doing that.
No, I don't expect him to go that.
Amenadiel, in the same token, he has now become more attached to Earth as well. He now has a child.
Yeah. But my biggest concern, and I guess this, if they go that route, I just feel like the arc of hell, the importance of Lucifer being in hell, they have to resolve that. Whether it's establishing someone in hell, or this being the final days. And it can be. Again,
I don't think they need hell anymore. I think that they've all been punished enough.
Well, this is true. But, and again, this is a show about fantasy and science fiction. It has nothing to do, it's not even following the actual dogma. But, do they want it to... I just feel like this should not be the last season. I hate saying that.
Well, no, we've all felt that way, and unfortunately, Netflix has only approved them for this last season, so the writers and the cast and the crew have said, okay, we get one more season, and it's not going to be as short as this past season was. They're doing a couple more episodes, so it's a bit fuller, which is great.
Oh, cool.
So I think that we'll feel like the story is told the way they want to end it. Albeit faster than we would prefer, but honestly, considering where this past season has landed, I feel that now is the time for them to finish it without dragging things out. Because one thing that I have hated, for example, with Lucifer's character, back when they were on Fox, they had to keep kind of resetting him in a way where, like, he would learn something, but then he kind of had to unlearn it and then relearn it again. And it's,
but I like that. I like that.
Which is okay for his character, but, like, watching it as a viewer can be frustrating for me, because I like to see that when a character actually makes the progress, they legitimately make it. And Lucifer has finally made that progress now.
Yeah.
He's finally broken into understanding, oh, I hated myself, I blamed myself for humanity's destruction and for everything that's wrong, and I'm not responsible. He's finally made that acceptance and transition. He's been able to forgive himself for a lot of things now, or at least begin the path of it. So I think that that's really, really important.
Yeah.
And I think that it's great that they just keep going with that as opposed to dragging that out or resetting him again.
I guess I just somewhat disagree about that.
Good. When
yeah.
something's good, you want it to keep going, but
yeah, I just felt like this season that it for me it's set up as being almost like a reboot going into it, and I guess that this could be taken two ways. Either way, you know, it could be an end or a reboot. But if Supernatural has gone on for so long, and still has a lot of fandom, hey, I've kept up with it, but I don't know if I'm going to be doing probably that one solo. I don't think I'm going to have you binge watch that. That is like torture.
Hell no.
That's like a whole different like level of fandom. That's like the fact that we're still on it tells you something, that we are enjoying the abuse. But they go into, there's a lot of comedy that they go from literally, you know, the supernatural of ghosts and vampires all the way into gods, demons, and stuff like that. And that's where the story arcs get bigger. And they got some hot guys on there too. So if you want to check out a couple episodes, it's worth checking out, but it's too much of a stress to get into. You really have to be, once you're sucked in, and that's the problem. That's the same thing with Lucifer. Once you're sucked in, you're sucked in. But I feel like, you know, saying that, if Supernatural went that far, they should totally go that long with Lucifer. I would watch it till its end game. If I could just see Tom Ellis on my screen on a daily basis, I think I would be okay. Like
I'm sure he's going to get cast in a lot more things after this.
Oh yeah,
show.
I want to see him in some like really bad British rom-com. I don't know why, but somewhere where he you know.
We need to watch Miranda.
Oh yeah,
that's what we got to pick up next. Go backwards in time while he's securing his next job, and then once we're done with that, we'll watch his new project. I'm sure.
I watched some of that, so it's not bad. I actually like it. Okay, so we're gonna have to wrap it up here because we've got a lot more probably to talk about this series. It is one near and dear to our hearts. We could probably do 1 million episodes of this, break it down each season to the point where we're blue in the face, and argue, as you could say, this is something we're so passionate about that we can safely debate about this. So I like that. So
Decker Star forever.
Oh yeah, Decker Star. Who was it? Musoe. There was another one. There's a couple of versions of that group, that grouping. Okay, so guys, just giving you a breakdown. This was Lucifer episode 3. Next week we will be talking about, oh dear God, I can't believe I'm saying this. We will be talking about Harry Potter.
Okay, we're probably going to need multiple episodes for that.
Well, I do definitely need you, if you haven't seen Fantastic Beasts, you need to definitely watch it because we're going to bridge it. Oh, you did?
It.
Did you watch the
I watched the second one.
We're just leave me alone. I'm so new, Tina. They're like marshmallows. Okay. Anyways, so we're gonna go bridge down. So I think what we should do is do episode by episode by book.
Okay.
That's what we should do. And we'll compare it and contrast it to the movies and who ends up with who in each movie, just to make it, you know. It'll break down more of the
episodes
episodes.
and not have our episodes every time.
Oh, this would be, you don't understand. There's so much to cover in Harry Potter. This would be like a 5 or 6 hour episode.
Yeah.
And you as audience members, we would not do that to you. That'd just be us rambling. Unless you're going to Vegas and need like a 5-hour trip, recording.
True.
But we're going to start our first episode of Harry Potter, The Sorcerer's Stone. And that'll be episode number 4. And I'm very excited about that because there's really no ships in there, but it's the starting of the already established ships that we know in the future. So we're kind of bridging that as well as some of the lore that is behind a lot of the characters. So McGonagall's like past, Dumbledore's
past. Are we
past.
go into fan fiction? Is that where it's gonna go?
No,
the people ships that never came to fruition.
We can tease you know,
Hermione, which is just wrong.
We can tease that, but we'll get into that episode. We can tease some of the stuff, but it's fun to also merge into the fanfics as well as the comic dubs. And if you have any chance to check out some comic dubs on YouTube, some of your favorite, like, I don't know, like, example, Raylo, which is, Kylo Ren, or yeah, and Ray.
Do some of those. We're gonna need to do Star Wars too in the future.
Oh yeah, well, we're going Harry Potter. We've got so many things, but check out those comic dubs. They're fun to watch, especially the Harry Potter comic dubs. These people that do fan art as well. Give a shout out to them. They're amazing. Edith Daphne. She's an amazing artist. Emma Chang does amazing Harry Potter art. If you want to check her out, check out her website. She's absolutely amazing. I just got to give a shout out to her. So, all right, my loves. This is Steph Zushi, a.k.a. Galaxian Knight, with
Andrea Donica, a.k.a. Dole Lip Drea.
And you're watching Ship or Not to Ship Fandoms R Us. We'll see you next time. We love you all. Bye.
Bye.